So this is a brand new Windows installation. I am using Windows 11 for this, but Windows 10 should also work. So what we first need to ensure is all updates on Windows are applied. So I'm just going to go to System, open Windows Update, and download all the updates that are present. This will take a few minutes to happen. So once this is done, we'll come back. We'll do the restart and come back. Okay, so now that all my updates are done, as we can see, we are up to date. We want to set up DFX SDK and all the corresponding tools like Visual Studio Code that we would need to program for the IC. So if we open our browser and go to smartcontracts.org, so this is Dfinity's website for developer documentation and everything related to DFX. We'll see, to get started we need to run this bash script. However, we currently cannot run bash scripts on Windows. So what we need to do is we need to install WSL2, which will let us run a full installation of Ubuntu on our current system. So for that, we'll search for install WSL2. The result that we are looking for is Microsoft's official documentation website. So we see over here docs.microsoft.com. This is the result that we want. So if you open this, we see that we need to run this on an elevated PowerShell terminal. Ideally, for this to work, you must be running Windows 10 or Windows 11 with a build version that is higher than this 19041. So for this particular machine, if I search for WinWar, I'll find that my build version is 22,000, which is much higher than the required version. So it will just work for me. If you're on a lower build version than this, you will have to follow the manual steps as shown over here. However, for us, we can just run this. I'll copy this, search for PowerShell, open it as an administrator, and run this. So what will this will do is actually install and enable a few underlying Windows components such as the virtual machine platform and the WSL system. It will then download the Linux kernel, which is specifically tuned by Microsoft for WSL, and enable a few other services. Once that is done, it will download Ubuntu and install Ubuntu. So we'll just wait for this to complete. So now, as shown over here, we need to do another system reboot. So I'll just reboot this computer and come back. So the reboot is done, and once we boot back into our Windows installation, we'll notice that this command line prompt automatically comes up and it says that Ubuntu is being installed. We'll just wait a couple of minutes for this to complete. So as we can see, a new terminal came up, and this is doing some more installation. So once this completes, we should be able to create a user on Ubuntu. Perfect. So it is prompting us to create a new username, and I'll just set a password. So we can see that the LTS version, latest LTS version of Ubuntu was installed on our system. So before I do anything else, what I also want to do is update Ubuntu with all the latest packages that are available. So as we can see, there are around 252 packages available to update. I'll do a full upgrade to install all of those available packages. Perfect. So now that we see that all our package updates are complete, we are ready to install the install script for DFX. So I'll go back to my browser and open smart contracts or, and I'll copy this script from over here and run it on the terminal. So this will go and fetch all the necessary packages for the DFX SDK and install it to the Ubuntu installation that we have. Perfect. So now that this is installed, I'll just close the terminal and open it back again. So if I type DFX version, I see that 0.8.4 is available. So the next thing that I want to do is I'll create a new directory and scaffold out a dummy project just to see the dummy project working. So what I can do is I can type dfx new and give it a project name. So it ran the command and created a new scaffolded a new project. However, what I can see over here is that since Node.js was not found, it skipped the front end example. So what I'll do is I'll actually remove this project and install Node first. So we will be using something called Volta, which is sort of a version manager for Node. So this will essentially let us install multiple different versions of Node as and when they come out, or even install a previous version of Node apart from the currently stable versions. So I'll just copy this command and run it over here. So once this runs, my setup is complete. Again, I'll close my terminal and open a new terminal and then run Volta install Node. This will go and fetch the latest stable release of Node and make it available for use. So again, once this is done, I can close my terminal and open it back again to see that Node version 16.14 is installed on our system. Perfect. So now again I'll navigate to the directory that I created and generate a new DFX project. This time, along with the Motoko part of it, since Node is also available, it will set up a front end canister as well. It will set up the code required to create the front end canister. So once this completes, we see that this time it completed successfully. So if I cd into the dummy project, I can say dfx start, and this will start my local replica. And in another terminal, I can navigate to the same project and say dfx deploy. So what this will do is, this will build the starter project and deploy the front end and back end canisters to my local replica. As we can see, these canisters are being created. So I can copy the ID for the front end canister and go to my browser and open up localhost 8000 and specify a canister ID. If I visit this, I can see that it opened up the front end canister for my dummy project running on my local replica. And if I open my DevTools, I can go to the network tab, and if I enter my name and click on this, we can see that a call was made, and subsequently that call returned a response, and this is talking to the backend canister to give me this response. If So the next step would be to install VS Code on our device so that we have an integrated development environment or an IDE to develop for the IC. So we'll search for Visual Studio Code, and once we find it, we'll click on the large button that lets us download, in this case download for Windows, and we'll wait for the download to complete. I'm just going to save it to my downloads folder, and once the download is complete, we'll install it. So now that the download is done, I'll install it. It's a pretty basic install steps. You'll just click next. I'll add these extra options because I like having an integration with the Windows shell. However, you don't have to do it if you don't want it. Once I hit install, the code editor will get installed, and then we can open our dummy project inside this. Perfect. So now that this is installed, what I can do is I can go back to my terminal Alright, so now that Visual Studio Code is installed, what I can do is open that project in code. So right now the project is opening from our Windows system. However, what we want to do is go to extensions and search for remote development. So here what we actually want is this pack from Microsoft called remote development. So if we install this, this will install all these containing packs. The one we are specifically interested for now is the remote WSL. So this time, if I close and open code again, this will actually open in the WSL connected mode instead of opening the folder inside Windows. What this is currently doing is installing a server inside the Ubuntu instance so that our Visual Studio client can communicate with the server running inside Ubuntu instead of opening the folder on Windows side. So I'll again say I trust the authors, and one additional thing that I can do is I can go to manage workspace trust, and instead of adding individual folders, what I can just do is I can edit this path to say anything that is part of the code folder, anything under that is a trusted folder. So hit OK. So just to show you, if I close this out and open this folder again, we will not get that prompt again because we are part of the trusted folders. Okay. So the next thing to note is this is the structure that was created. So basically we have a Motoko file over here. Again, we can get another extension to help with Motoko. So if we search for Motoko in the extensions tab, there's one by Dfinity Foundation. We'll install this. So if I go back to the Motoko file, I see that I'm getting some color highlighting and some recognition with the text over here. On the right hand side bottom corner, we can see that this is being given to us by the Motoko extension. The other assets are over here. There's the index HTML and JS files, which we can see. This is how to set up your WSL instance with Visual Studio Code for development on the IC.